Greetings, pilots and passengers. Welcome back to the next episode of the Dead Talk podcast. With me today is the wonderful Bella, also known as Steak and Butter Gal on her YouTube and Instagram, where she shares her experience on the carnivore diet. She's also an incredibly talented pianist. She's recently graduated from the Juilliard School?
Mm-hmm.
And she's decided to start her Instagram and YouTube to share her journey, and that's quite recent, isn't it?
Yeah, I started Instagram last year, August, just to start showing pictures of my meaty meals because suddenly became so passionate about sharing my meat meals. And then just a couple months later, I think January of this year, I started a YouTube channel, and it was almost like for fun, vlogs showing me going to visit farms. I think that was my first video. And then it just became me just sitting down talking about what I learned, my journey, experimenting, and lots more.
So what made you want to start your channel focusing on, well, what made you want to transition to covering more carnivore content?
Yeah, so I initially started both platforms to focus on the carnivore diet. It wasn't anything besides that. However, it started changing when I guess I met more people and I started realizing that a lot of ladies my age started reaching out to me, sending me DMs or commenting saying how helpful my content is for them. And so I realized that I should maybe focus more on what I learned, what I find helps me, some of my tips and advice that I've gathered along the way, just to cater more to my audience instead of doing stuff that I want to do, like going to a steak restaurant or hot pot and vlogging that. I guess I just wanted to help the carnivore ladies more.
Yeah, but you haven't always been carnivore, have you? Could you give a bit of background on that aspect of
Yeah.
what your diet was like before carnivore?
So my diet before carnivore was vegan. So I was eating the vegan diet and whole foods plant-based. It wasn't any processed vegan foods. There were no mock meats. I was really focusing on rice, brown rice, sweet potatoes, steamed even. No plant oils too. I was also aware that the plant oils weren't necessary, in fact, kind of detrimental from the start. And then on top of that, lots of steamed vegetables as well as lots of raw fruits. I did different phases of different types of vegan diets. I started off doing a raw till 4 inspired by Freely the Banana Girl. And actually, I went vegan because of her. And she was promoting this raw till 4 diet. You eat as many raw plants, fruits until 4 p.m. and then you start eating cooked starches. I did that for a while and I started feeling like I was gaining a lot of weight. So I did the 100% fruit, raw fruit, fruitarian, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And I was eating like 20 to 40 bananas a day.
Oh my God.
It was a lot of
How
different
is
things.
that physically possible though? That seems
I know.
absolutely insane.
Right. Physically, the bloating was painful. It was crazy how bloated I was. And the digestion, I was pooping at least 3 times a day. So my whole day was just centered around um, eating so many bananas. Because, by the way, if you only eat bananas, you're not going to be full for a long time. You're eating, you're pooping, you're eating, you're pooping. So it's not ideal. And then after that, I started going back to just starches and veggies and fruits, but not really raw till 4. But it was a lot of just going back and forth, searching for answers, just not feeling my best.
Did you with the bloating? Because part of the reason I went carnivore was I suffered terrible IBS, like terrible, and
Mm-hmm.
mine was persistent bloating, like
Oh my gosh.
bloating even if before you've actually eaten. And the doctor always told me eat more fibre, which to me didn't really make much sense at all. But
Mm-hmm.
even after eating, and I used to eat mainly plant-based, a tiny bit of meat, because I've always thought meat made you constipated. But
Mm-hmm.
in regards to your bloating, did you think that the bloating was it was a result of your diet at all when you were suffering
Ab-
through it?
Absolutely. And I felt the bloating go away once I started taking out the fiber and eating the carnivore diet. And I kind of didn't approach it in an ease into the carnivore diet. I did it just instantly overnight. And of course, there were repercussions because my digestion just went crazy. It was lots of loose stools, lots of diarrhea. But I already noticed that my bloating was diminishing so much by the day. And I do think that if you're only just eating protein and fat, your bloating should be dramatically improved, if not completely gone. It's really the fiber and the sugars, especially if you combine that with meat. Oh my gosh, then the bloating will be really bad. The digestion may be really painful.
What other, when you went carnivore, what other health issues improved for you?
So, besides the digestion, which got better after a few months, I got my period back also within the first few months. And that's huge because that was one of the main reasons why I knew I needed to leave the vegan diet, stop eating plant based. And I got it back, and to this day, it's normal. It's painless, which is also huge. I recently made a video just going into depth how I feel like it's so important. If you're having painful menstrual cycles, you're having cramps, and you're having crazy PMS, there's just that could be an issue with your diet, with the food you're feeding your body. It should not be painful. You should not be downing Tylenol and Advil every month. It doesn't have to be like that. Um, and my skin got better, my energy got better, less brain fog, hair is growing back, um, yeah, and just a lot.
Yeah, wow, that's really amazing to hear. And I think, did it surprise you transitioning back to eating meat and only meat is quite a, I think it's quite a sudden thing to do if you're just going to go to meat. Especially in my
Hmm.
case, I was quite surprised to see how everything improved. Was it quite surprising to you to see how everything just healed essentially?
Hmm. I would say that the first 3 to 4 months, it wasn't as like beautiful and positive as many people think. When I rave about the carnivore diet now, people think that I started to feel so great from the beginning. But I have to say, the first few months were tough. But
Yeah.
I really pushed through because I was listening to my body, and my body was telling me more meat, more butter, more eggs. But you see, my digestion was still horrible, just diarrhea, pain, lots of rumbling. Like in class, I would be sitting like at my desk and my stomach would be rumbling like crazy. It's just embarrassing. And on top of that, yeah, like I was gaining weight. So my self esteem was not really in a good place. But what I knew was that my body was dying to eat the meat. I was eating up to 5 pounds of meat per day. And the first three to 4 months, it was just eating so much. And obviously that's not going to lead to great digestion. It's going to kind of lead to grogginess, sleepiness when you're eating that many calories in one day. So it was a lot of feeling good, and then suddenly like I need to eat, and then wanting to sleep, and then bad digestion. It was a lot of different negative things. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like the adjustment was tough.
Definitely, I remember when I started, it was kind of like one of I've done everything, and
Mm,
this is the last thing I'm going to try, and then if this doesn't work, I don't really know what else to do. But
right.
it was, I started in July, and when I started, um, I just I stuck with it. I was quite lucky because my dad joined it with me, and he's did it for weight loss, and he's lost about a stone and a half so far.
Amazing.
Um, and it was just one day I woke up and my stomach was just flat, and it was like a tear
Mm.
in my eye. Like I've never
Oh,
seen that in about 7 months. But yeah,
yeah.
like you said, it's not. all, rainbows and, unicorns.
Yes.
It's like there was a
Right.
week where I was just stuck in bed, like headaches,
Mm.
and I'd say it was like essentially when people say, the keto flu sort of thing. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a certain adaptation period of time where you will probably feel like, oh, this is not for me. This is not working for me. I think I'm just an exception. I'm going to leave the carnivore diet. But really, there are ways to troubleshoot. And most of the time, I have found it's because either you're not eating enough, but for me, I was eating enough because I have a huge appetite. So that was a blessing. But a lot of people think that, I feel so full. I'm not going to eat anymore for the rest of the day. Also, I don't want to get fat, that will cause a lot of issues. Or they're eating too much fat, not enough protein, the ratios, or they're downing the salt when really they don't need all that salt. So, this is why I always say you should really experiment safely and not just listen to what that carnivore says.
definitely. You mentioned salt there, and I saw you did a video on salt about how you started not having salt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Yeah.
was I was
So
just watching it earlier as well, just to give
oh,
myself a bit of a reminder of it.
mhm.
But
What did you think
I
of
think
like
that's
the
really
documentary?
interesting
Sure.
because
Yeah.
one thing I was thinking about, and I put pink salt on my when I have my meals. I put a bit of pink salt on, and I think the only thing I've noticed is every night I always have to wake up at the same time to go for a wee, and it's
Mm.
quite annoying. And that got me
Mm-hmm.
thinking, watching your video, whether if I stopped having salt, whether that would sort of change.
Hmm.
So yeah, it just definitely got me thinking. So say about a little bit about your salt
Sure.
experiment.
Yes. So my salt experiment is kind of inverted. I always preferred less salt to zero salt. And that's how I started actually, just minimal salting because again, I was listening to my taste buds, my body, and all it wanted was just plain old meat because it was so delicious to me. And I didn't really need to reach for salt. I wasn't really trying to copy anybody else's guidelines. I just felt like if I eat enough meat and butter with some eggs, it should be fine. So I never reached for salt until this summer. And I think I started to have this urge to experiment because COVID hit and all I could do was stay at home. Besides staying at home, I could go to Whole Foods with my boyfriend. And I saw all these new things that I want to try at Whole Foods. And I started just trying some cheese, trying some salt. I was like, okay, I don't really add salt, but let's just see what happens. I added the salt, real salt to be exact, started salting my meats. And the first thing that I tasted was like, wow, the flavor is kind of enhanced. It's very salty. Can't really stop eating. So salted more and started salting more and ate more and more and realized I was getting more thirsty and parched and drank tons of water. And then at night, I started to wake up and start peeing. It happened 2 to 3 times because I was salting that much. And on top of that, I was enjoying all the cheeses. So the salt increased a lot during the summer. And I kind of treated that as an experiment, was very aware of how I felt. And those things that I just mentioned, that's exactly what happened. And when I weaned off the salt, the peeing, the thirstiness, the inability to stop eating stopped. So I think salt could cause those issues for other people. And I have heard from people, they DM me saying, "Oh, I don't wake up in the night anymore once I started salting less." So I guess it just depends on what you're trying to fix or resolve. But I also hear that people love adding salt, like it's necessary, maybe because they're really active. So I think even now, I don't know how I feel about salt. I just know that I don't need it for flavor and to feel good. I don't need it.
Yeah, I think as well part of that is a lot of people when they start the carnivore diet, part of what you sort of told is you have to really pay attention to electrolytes, and part of
Yes.
that is literally just made out to be salting absolutely everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people take potassium, sodium, and magnesium, all electrolytes, very seriously. But I just believe that those electrolytes can be found in beef. And if you are eating enough, it should be fine.
Definitely. Talking about meat, so you said you started with just beef, eggs, and butter,
Mm.
and you were eating about £5 a day, which is a lot. So eventually, I'm guessing you sort of got to a point where you reduced it down and figured out what you eat sort of in a day, and just stick with that.
Mm-hmm. I would say I was always intuitively eating when hungry, stopping when full, sometimes stopping when stuffed. And I just let myself eat until stuffed because that's just what my body wanted and needed, maybe. So it I would say I naturally started feeling full for longer periods of time as the months passed by. First month, I was eating many meals throughout the day, snacking meals, butter sticks throughout the day. So always eating. In second, third month, less of the snacking. Fourth, fifth month, just solid meals, maybe 2 to 3 times. And then sixth month, I would say that was when I started doing what people call 2 meals a day. But I never really purposely did it, never purposely forced or planned to do it. And I think after a full year is when I comfortably fell into 1 meal a day. And that's what I generally do to this day, just 1 meal a day. And I really think I can do that and sustain that because I have a big appetite. So I think that's a key component of being able to do 1 meal a day.
What's one of your favorite meals then?
Um, Definitely ground beef, sauteed ground beef, 2 pounds is generally how much I eat. I can either turn that into a soup by adding some water
Yeah.
or, not. And on the side, I always have butter just as a stick. I like to do like 1 bite of ground beef, 1 bite of butter. I don't know why, but I don't really like to top my butter and have it melt because I want to taste the flavors and the textures. And on top of that, I'll either have some boiled eggs or
Egg
some
pudding.
egg. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the butter, when you first started, did you start off eating butter the way you often do now, with like you often like to freeze butter sticks? Did you start
Hmm.
off eating butter in quite a large amount, or did you eventually figure out that that was working well for you?
I ate butter from the start, a lot of it too. And I froze the butter from the very beginning. And I think I just got the idea of freezing butter because I would buy so much butter at once. Yeah. And I just felt like, oh, I don't want to, have the butter go bad while I'm enjoying this box right here. So I'll just freeze the rest. And then there was one time, I think, where I ran out of the butter in the fridge. So I was like, darn it, I didn't thaw the ones in the freezer. Ugh, I'll just eat it because I'm so hungry. I ate the frozen butter. I was like, this is really good.
Yeah.
I'll just keep freezing it. It's really good. So that's just still what I do.
As well, you like to eat raw liver,
Oh,
and
yes.
every other day or so?
Yes, every other day. I try to do a schedule every other day. Otherwise, I would just avoid it at all costs. It doesn't taste good
Yeah.
to me. I know a lot of people love liver, but I think raw liver is just another level. So I always, allot every other day about the size of my palm, maybe a little smaller, just to make sure I'm up to date with all of the essential minerals, electrolytes that may not be in my meat and eggs.
At what point did you actually introduce that into your diet then?
Mm, I was influenced by Frank Tufano. I started, watching his videos from the start. And I remember I started really paying attention to, him saying, you got to eat the liver. And I saw some of his videos where he was eating raw liver. And I was like, I'll just do it. So I think I did it, can't remember exactly when, but it was definitely by month 3 or 4.
And what differences did you notice from having raw liver in your diet rather
First,
than
yeah,
cooked?
right. Always started off with raw, but I noticed my skin just The very next morning, I just noticed the color of my skin was more even, and it was almost more luminescent. Is that a word? Just like a
Yeah,
little bit more glowing. And on top of that, the energy was great. When I woke up in the morning, I just felt this surge of positive energy. It's like, oh, I can't wait to start my day, like that type of energy. Every time I ate the liver. And I also tried cooking the liver, sauteing it with some butter, and I didn't really see the skin benefits as much.
that's interesting. I mean, every time
Yes.
I've had liver, I mean, I usually try do it once a week
Okay.
because I mean, it's as much as I can bear to cope with. And
Yeah.
I do find I feel a lot better the next day
Mm-hmm.
with but I think it depends on the animal that you get it from, because I've
Yes.
noticed that some livers are just don't I don't, don't I think don't have the same effect, but I don't know, maybe
Mm.
that's just not a thing, or I'm maybe making
It
that up.
it could be. What different types of livers have you tried?
I've tried pork liver and
Oh,
I felt
interesting.
all right after that. Chicken
Hmm.
liver, same, but I tried ox liver and I just felt really tired afterwards,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
interesting. So maybe
Yeah.
it's a thing. But I was going to ask you, go back to when you sort of first started carnivore, of
Yes.
how did being on the diet have an impact on you when you were studying as a pianist and your work?
So I would say the positive benefits rolled in after I was fully adjusted. Um, First thing that I noticed was the mental clarity. And the mental clarity really went a long way, at least for me. I think for pianists, your mind, the power of your mind, the resilience of your mind is so important when you are at the piano, at the violin, whatever instrument the musician is playing, because most of the work is done in the practice room at your instrument. And a lot of the improvement and the progress takes place in the mind. People may assume that musicians don't really need to practice. It's like pure talent, they're born with it. But actually, it's a lot of commitment, dedication, daily practice, hours and hours of efficient practice. So when I have very sharp mental clarity and extreme focus, I totally found that my work, that my practice was so efficient, and I saw myself improve that much faster too. For example, if I'm learning a new Chopin etude and I need to present it to my teacher next week, I have 7 days. Usually it takes me that full 7 days to learn and memorize. But by day 4, I felt like, oh, I'm ready to play this to my teacher. So it was that big of a difference, just days saved in the amount of time that I need to prepare a certain piece. And also, the memory improved. And this is something that I am so impressed by with the diet. Food can improve and affect your memory. And with musicians, that is everything, especially pianists, because we perform without music. We have to perform most things, at least, with by memory. No music on the piano, just get on stage and play by memory. Honestly, I prefer that, but it's nerve wracking, especially when you don't feel ready. But when your memory in tip top shape, you just feel more confident. You feel like you can slay on stage, and you also don't have to spend so much time practicing, worrying about memorizing every single note. So the carnivore diet definitely affected my brain in the most impactful way.
Did any of your teachers or fellow students notice a difference in you?
Yeah, so my classmates definitely. And with the mental difference, I think it's hard for people to notice that, but definitely people noticed visually, like, how I looked and my energy levels too, how I behaved around them. They all noticed that I was happier, more positive, more energetic, and my figure looked slimmer, and mostly those things.
So, in terms of your peers, what did your family think when you went carnivore?
So My mom's initial reaction when I told her I'm not going to be vegan anymore, I'm just going to start eating meat, she was overjoyed and she supported me very much. And it wasn't until I visited her in China and she realized that I only eat meat. I tried to keep that vague when it was phone calls. She would just ask me what I'm eating. I was like, oh, I cooked up some new brisket. How do you do it? And she'd be so interested in showing me how. Like she'd never really got to asking, oh, what vegetables are you eating? Never had to talk about it until she cooked for me at home and I never ate the vegetables. Just like, what is going on? I was like, let's go to a hot pot restaurant. Don't eat the vegetables. And so she was like, that is unhealthy. And I kind of just tried to convince her, like, look at me, don't you feel and see that I'm different? I'm happier, more energetic. But honestly, she really started supporting me and the carnivore diet when she saw how successful her egg pudding is. She is so happy. And just because of the egg pudding success and the fame that her egg pudding created online, she's like, okay, fine. I'm not going to bother you about the carnivore diet.
So, for people who are watching this who won't know what the egg pudding is, would you give a little bit of a explanation of the egg pudding?
Sure.
The
So
famous
it's
egg pudding.
yeah, it really blew up. And it's called a steamed egg pudding, to be exact. So it's different because we take the eggs, we beat up the eggs, add the liquid. Usually it's some broth or water, and we put that in a bowl and steam it. So that's how it's cooked. We steam it with water, and in Chinese, it's literally translated to steamed chicken egg, 蒸鸡蛋. And I actually grew up eating this. It was just just daily thing, my daily breakfast. My mom would have it ready by the time I'm in the kitchen, eat it, and go to school. And it was just seen as this very nourishing, simple, easy Chinese dish. And then I realized, hey, this is totally carnivore. And my mom, taught me how to do it, the details, step by step. Actually, my original video on Instagram was made by her. And it just blew up. And I think people really took a liking to this recipe because of how easy it is, because of how interesting, the jiggly texture, the fact that it will be ready within minutes. It's really not too complicated. Although some people have complained to me that it is impossible to make. So I apologize to those people. It sometimes is a gamble, but 80% of the time people find it easy. So yeah, it's
What was
just
your
so
reaction
popular.
to it blowing up? What did you expect that it would blow up so
Not
massively?
at all. I thought people would just think it's, another breakfast because I definitely took it for granted. I just thought it was a way to eat eggs. But people really took it as a way to elevate it and turn it into whatever they want, like a dessert, a flan. People call it some type of brulee, just by adding a new ingredient. So I was definitely shocked at how it blew up. And even to this day, every day I open my Instagram, so many new egg pudding tags and stories. It's awesome. Not complaining.
Definitely. I I am looking to. I haven't tried it yet because
Oh,
I was going to ask you this because I am intolerant to egg whites. So I'm assuming you could probably just
oh.
make it with egg yolks, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Yes, you can. Many people just do egg yolks and water. You can totally.
Definitely. If that is the case, I'm doing that for sure. Because I saw the one you were on your story the other day where you put yogurt into it and it had turned into
Oh
a
yeah.
massive monster.
Yes. The souffle. Yeah, you could really transform it into anything. Yeah, yolks. A lot of people do yolks.
Awesome. Well,
Hmm.
a few wrap up questions I have is what
Sure.
is the future for you? Looking towards the future, do you plan on staying on this diet for the foreseeable future, or do you think you would change it?
So I really do see myself sticking to this diet because so far I have not come across any issues that I can't resolve at least. For example, when I feel drowsy, I just experiment a little with the electrolytes. I feel better. So I don't see any reason where I have to leave the carnivore diet or add in fiber or vegetables or plants. I don't see that. However, I always say, and I always say this to my boyfriend, if I were to get pregnant, let's say, and I come across issues that I did not foresee coming, I will be open to, incorporating this or that if needed for my baby. That's the only reason that I may leave carnivore diet. But if I'm not pregnant, if I'm not caring for a child in my body, I'm sticking to the carnivore diet.
Awesome. I think I'm the same. I think if something's not broken, why change it? If it's
Yes,
working, there's no need to mess around with it. But
exactly.
what in terms of your channel and your Instagram, what are your plans for the future with that?
So for Instagram, I love that platform to just show daily stories, daily meals, Simba,
Oh,
or
I love
all the
Simba.
yeah, or all the many tags that have been happening. I use that as a way to just stay updated with the community. And then I really treat YouTube as a supplement if I wanted to give some further guidance or answer some questions that people consistently ask me, or people request me to focus on one topic. I will utilize YouTube as a way to get in depth and answer any detailed questions. So I see YouTube as a supplement to the stuff that I share on Instagram. Either way, it's just for me to get inspired and to inspire others if they need the inspiration.
Wonderful. If someone came to you and was asking about, or someone was looking to start the carnivore diet, what would be your response or suggestions to them?
So you watch my YouTube videos. I
Yeah,
have a playlist.
definitely.
Have a playlist for beginners. Um, Besides that, I really recommend listening to the many carnivore podcasts on Joe Rogan's channel or his podcast on Spotify. I find all the carnivores that he invite are all very knowledgeable, all super, super helpful for anybody who's new. And just follow literally everyone in the carnivore community on Instagram and just literally just DM everyone, get to know them. Everyone is so nice and is so willing to help. And I think Instagram is a perfect way to start off to get situated with the diet.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I definitely found when I first started listening to Michaela Peterson
Yes.
and her story was really like what sold it for me.
Me too. Me too.
Definitely, 'cause that was
Hmm.
really inspiring, and I think especially now it's quite surprising to see that eating only meat can just do so much.
Yeah,
It's quite
it's so impressive.
it is amazing, and it's quite shocking how you know the standard diet is still promoted as being healthy when it's knowing what we know now, it's not at all.
Yeah, that's why I'm always very cautious to accept advice from medical professionals or doctors or things that mainstream promotes. I always question things and do my own research as well as my own experimentation.
Definitely, I think that's what more people should be doing.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you?
Mm. So, Stick and Butter Gal is my handle, just spell out. On Instagram, you can find me. On Facebook and YouTube, you can find me. And if you're in the mood for some classical music, you can find me at Opus Bella, Opusbella. My name is Bella. And I have an Instagram just for the music. So, yeah, that's where you can find me.
I definitely recommend people check her out because she is, oh my God, it is absolutely mind blowing watching you play. You are so
Yeah.
talented. It's absolutely insane.
Wow, thank you.
So, thank you so much for speaking with me today, Bella, and taking time out of your schedule to speak with me because it has been wonderful hearing from you and hearing how meat has really helped change your health and improve everything and change your life, essentially, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to share my story with you. And I was so happy to receive your email, to know that you just started carnivore. It's honestly channels people like you that help spread the message about the carnivore diet. So I appreciate you too.
Oh, thank you so much. And
Mm.
is there any final messages you'd like to say to people?
Um, well, I urge everyone to start a YouTube channel, start an Instagram
Yeah,
page.
definitely.
Yeah, just sharing your journey. You don't have to feel like you need to promote anything. Just putting your story out there, share your journey, even if it's just sharing your meat pictures like I did, you never know what will happen. And it's so much fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bella, for speaking with me today. It's been lovely to speak to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you to Bella for joining me today on the Dare to Fly podcast. It's been wonderful speaking to her, and I hope you all watching this enjoyed hearing what she had to say about her experience on the carnivore diet. I'd like to say that if you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe to Dare to Fly today and get ready to take flight. Turn on notifications so you get notified every time I upload a video. Like and share this video with others. If you'd like to support the channel even further, you can make a one-off donation to my coffee page, which will go towards buying me some rocket fuel for my ship. Or you can also donate to my PayPal, and links to both of those will be down below in the description box. Hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day wherever you are in the world. Stay true, stay awake, and stay blessed. And as always, fly high, fit less.